Hello, TechCrunch. We got Adeo Ressi from the Founder Institute here. And the first question to Adeo, as you are probably the person who's seen most entrepreneurs worldwide, do you think there is such a character as a Russian entrepreneur?
I think Russian entrepreneurs are great. I would say that not only have I seen, hundreds of entrepreneurs in dozens of cities around the world, we've also tested hundreds of entrepreneurs in dozens of cities around the world. And of all the entrepreneurs everywhere in the world, Moscow is number one in terms of fluid intelligence. And we found that fluid intelligence predicts success in entrepreneurship very well. So not only have I met great entrepreneurs here, but, and by the way, I know many great Russian entrepreneurs both in Russia and outside of Russia as well, so they're not just here. There's a diaspora of great Russian entrepreneurs all around.
Do you think that apart from the fluid intelligence thing, are there any particular differences that single out the Russian entrepreneur from the crowd?
Well, one of the things I mentioned in the keynote is that there's a couple areas where Russians stand out. So they have lower than normal agreeableness, which, that's almost a stereotypical sort of feisty Russian trait. They also have a slightly lower emotional stability, which means they might fly off the handle, which again might be a bit stereotypical. But they also have very high conscientiousness, which means that they're super responsible, and that's a great trait. If you want to count on someone to get something done, you want them to be conscientious. So I think there's, on average, another interesting tidbit is they score in terms of how well an entrepreneur they might become, the same as entrepreneurs that take the test in Silicon Valley. So in terms of the average prediction, entrepreneurs in Russia and Moscow predict just as well as entrepreneurs in Silicon Valley, though there are those differences that I just brought up.
Interesting. And another question about global trends. You're probably the person who sees most hottest startup trends worldwide. Are there any particular fields that you see as emerging or as most interesting, or where there are most startups starting up right now in the world?
Well, there are two answers to that question, of course, right? One is what do I see startups doing, and then what do I think is interesting? So I think there's a lot of interesting trends right now all around the world that are, so there's a unique time today where you have a mobile device that is location aware, that has data, storage. So I think if you take, social, mobile, local, right, and combine that with big data. So a lot of people are like social, mobile, local. Okay, that's great, but now you also have big data. I think that is opening up really a revolution that we're seeing around the world with different types of services and platforms and idea. I think there's a whole hardware revolution going on with Arduino and connected devices that's just beginning. And who knows where that's going to go, the Pebble, and so there, for a long time, hardware was a bad word in entrepreneurship. Like if you were starting a hardware company, you might as well throw in the towel. But it's really turned the corner. Hardware companies are getting funded. They're hardware accelerators. The cost of producing the hardware is diminishing dramatically. I also think that you're seeing some interesting marketplaces coming out right now. There are $100 million and billion-dollar marketplaces being launched each and every day. So Uber is a great example, and now there are clones of Uber around the world. There's food delivery marketplaces that essentially, and that brings up maybe a fourth area, delivery as a service, or I'd call it sort of infrastructure as a service. So imagine like paying a flat fee a month and having anything you want delivered from your city. So if I paid, a delivery service $50 a month, and they'll bring me pizza, they bring me a wireless charger, whatever I need, I just say I need it, they get it, and it's so infrastructure as a service. I can keep going. There's some others that I see. So there are a lot of great trends right now.
Definitely interesting. And continuing on the topic of trends, you're also in a unique position to observe VC trends as a founder of The Funded. Is there anything interesting happening on this side of the pool?
Well, I would say that there's a resurgence in venture capital right now, which is long overdue. So when we started The Funded in 2007, it was the beginning of soon to be a very bad time. And essentially venture capital got the perfect storm of 10-year historic terrible returns. So the 2001 era funds did horrible. Everyone lost money. The financial crisis of 2008, 2009, and then in addition to that, the model had already been under assault. So you were already in a bit of a free fall when those two things happened. And so I think that in probably 2010, 2011, 2012, the number of firms and number of deals worldwide were at like 20-year lows from what I could tell. So what we're seeing right now is that you finally have some great IPOs that are happening in America. You finally are starting to see some companies building real value, and so and there's a flourishing secondary market that allows people to take money in private companies off the table. So if you make an investment in a private company, you can now sell that investment in a secondary market. That's fixed venture capital returns, right? And now there's just starting to be a resurgence of new funds coming out to take advantage of that. These include completely innovative new funds like Andreessen Horowitz following the CAA model, but there's a lot of innovation happening on the fund side as well. So,
do you think the micro investments, like the angel list thing, is it going to be anything serious, or is it just a buzzword?
Well, I mean, look, AngelList is a great force in the universe today, but the problem is it's not as global as it needs to be. So I think that this is a solvable problem, and I'm eager to see it solved because we operate in 35 countries and 60 cities. But if you actually look at the true distribution of AngelList, it's really focused on the U.S. and it's probably even more focused on Silicon Valley. And the reason I know this is I work with Naval, the founder, to import our list of mentors. So we have 2,500 mentors around the world, right. And the number of mentors that were already in AngelList, which was like 700. So it wasn't, that just gives you a sense that it's less than a third of,
Absolutely. Okay, and one last thing before we wrap up. What would you wish to all the applicants for the second semester of FI in Moscow? Just if you could say one sentence to them.
Well, work hard and never give up, because I think you have here in Russia, there's an interesting time where there's a lot of opportunity, but it's also easy to get lost in the challenges of day-to-day life. So if you work hard and never give up, you should be able to capture the opportunities and build some amazing companies.
Great. Thank you very much. This was Adeo Ressi of the Founder Institute.
The Grunge.